Hello Rayclast, welcome to my build guide for a Animate Guardian Chains of Command Voidforge Necromancer. This is my second main build of the Sanctum League and it has been super fun. I decided to revisit the idea of Chains of Command after playing it a few leagues ago. And this is no kind of revolutionary concept. People have definitely done Voidforge Chains of Command in the past, but it seemed like something definitely worth revisiting based on the mega buffs to Voidforge. So there are lots of other guides around if you want to get into all the nitty gritty. I'm going to try and keep this one short since the last video got really long, since that was a pretty complicated build. We're just doing a Minotaur map in the back here. I'll let this play through. As always, you'll find a path of building in the video description, and if you go to the gear tab there is a gear set for the Animate Guardian, so you can look at that if you want to see what he's using. And I'll just let this map finish out. We will go into my hideout and quickly run through the things you need to know about this build, and then at the end there will be a few boss fights. This is another couple firsts for me. This character is the first that I have ever managed to take down any Uber bosses on. I've taken down Uber Shaper and Uber Cortex, and I think some of the others are definitely doable with a bit of practice, particularly Uber Elder. I just kind of tilted out of a few of those fights, so they didn't work out for me. But we'll see you guys in a few minutes. Alright guys, welcome back. We will quickly run through here. Again, check the path of building if you want to look at stuff in detail and really take your time, but we'll go over the main concepts first. Core item of the build is the Chains of Command armor. This triggers level 20 Animate Guardian weapon when Animate Guardian kills an enemy. So that means whatever weapon you put on your Animate Guardian, it will raise a copy of it when your Animate Guardian kills a weapon, up to 15 copies. Then we use worms. See, we have 3 worm flasks, and as we pop those, worms go out, the Animate Guardian kills them, and it summons copies of the Voidforge that he's using. To make this really work, another crucial item is Gravebind gloves on your Animate Guardian. This makes it so all nearby kills count as his kills. That makes it so that whenever worms and stuff are dying around, it will always give that top line 100% chance to trigger the level 21, rather than relying on the 10% when one of your weapons kills something. Other than that, the Animate Guardian is using some Legacy of Fury boots to scorch nearby enemies, and an Influenced Hat for enemies take increased elemental damage, and then he's just using a Doppelganger guy's armor to make him basically invincible. I have never seen his health move the entire time I've been playing this build through Uber bosses and everything. So that's how the main loop with your Guardian works. As far as other stats you want to go for on gear, or other uniques, I'm doing an Aegis Aurora on this build. Chaos Inoculation with a bunch of armor. I think I get like about 40k armor almost when I've got my flasks up. So it is really nice defensively because we are capped blocked between Tempest Shield and the base block here and Bone Offering. So that gives us nice defenses against hits. Other uniques, using Triad Grip. This isn't strictly necessary on this build. You only get about 14% more damage from them because the Voidforge is already giving you 700% fizz, so converting that little bit of base you had doesn't give a lot, but more importantly, it gives chance to freeze, shock, and ignite. And since you're not really going to crit here, in particular I can't crit, my Voidforge happens to be corrupted with Resolute Technique. That's not strictly necessary. You could just run like a higher level precision aura or take a couple of minion accuracy nodes on the tree and you should be fine without that. But the Triad Grip lets them shock, which is really important. Other than that, one thing to note is that unlike most minion builds, this build doesn't care at all about levels to minion gems. So like for the wand here, it's just super basic minion damage, minion attack, and cast speed. And then I've got some cast speed for myself, and as usual on a summoner build, it's a trigger wand, which triggers our Desecrate and Bone Offering. Other things, just again, super generic minion damage and speed stats. You're going to need quite a bit of dexterity and strength to be able to use all the items, so you're going to need to get some stats on your jewelry as well. Using a Darkness Enthroned, as most minion builds do, and in particular, you need to make sure that you have large, flat physical damage rolls for your minions. That obviously synergizes super well with Voidforge, and it's not shown on this or anything, but that level 20 animate weapon also has a large amount of flat fizz built into it, so your Voidforge gets really, really strong with large amounts of added damage. Get as much armor and energy shield everywhere as you can. Of course, make sure you're capping out your resists. And then for your helmet, you are going to want an Archdemon Crown. This gives the socketed skills apply fire, cold, and lightning exposure. Since we're tri-elemental, we need all of those exposures. And I have Purifying Flame in there that I used to trigger it. And the reason I chose Purifying Flame is because that consecrated ground gives some extra regen to your animate weapons, which helps them survive a little bit better against some of the big enemy attacks in the game. Which is super important if you're trying to do uber bosses, because that's honestly the main limitation, is that there's not really a great way to make your weapons super tanky and survivable. As far as gem links, I've got Clarity, Precision, and Vitality. They're all just at level 1. I'm just using those for the Necromancer node because they each give your minions 3% increased attack speed. If you want some other utility, something or whatever, you could throw into those slots as well. I'm using Shield Charge for mobility. We shield charge really quickly because we get so much attack speed from all the minion attack speed that we've stacked. As I mentioned, Desecrate Bone Offering here, and then I didn't want a third skill triggered here, so I just put Tempest Shield in here. Reservation skills can't be triggered by wands like that. For your auras, you're using Discipline, Determination, and Defiance Banner along with the Tempest Shield for your main ones. Elemental Weakness as your curse, because again, you want to lower all elemental resistances. Then we're also using a Poacher's Mark, because again, that is a good amount of flat fizz added to the attacks of your minions, which scales super well with Voidforge. Your Animate Guardian, you want to be linked with Feeding Frenzy, Minion Life, and Meat Shield. These two, just make sure he has lots of health and he's not going to die, and then he will proc the Feeding Frenzy to give you the Feeding Frenzy buff. Let's see, what else? Convocation, wherever you can slot it, you definitely need that for some of the uber fights, because like Shaper Beam and stuff, your animate weapons cannot tank that. As far as the links for your animate weapons, got elemental damage with attacks, melee fizz. You could of course go for awakened versions of these. Predator, pretty important so you can make sure they focus. I'm using Ruthless and Multi-Strike. And this last one's kind of a toss-up. There are some other options, but I went with Hypothermia because I think the extra freeze is nice. Not really necessary, but does help out a little bit. And most importantly, I didn't want to use the minion damage gem because your animate weapons already have a tough time surviving against big dots in some of those pinnacle bosses, and I didn't want to lower their life by using the minion damage gem, so I went with Hypothermia instead. So that does it for gear and gems. We'll quickly go through the passive tree here. For your Ascendancy, you're a Necromancer. I don't really have any leveling tips for this because you may have noticed that this was just a respec of my character from the previous build guide because I didn't feel like leveling a new character. So we've got Commander of Darkness, life resistances, damage, and speed. Mistress of Sacrifice, very important, so your Bone Offering also affects you, so you can hit that block cap. And then just Mindless Aggression and Bone Barrier. This gives us really nice energy shield recovery rate, so when our recharge kicks in, it goes up really fast. And of course, this is a great generic minion node. Pretty standard sort of minion tree here, I would say, if you're going energy shield. We're grabbing a good amount of the minion defense stuff. We've got the block stuff. We've got the resist stuff to try and keep our minions as survivable as we can. We head over here and grab, again, more minion stuff and all of the good energy shield stuff on the way. Grab our extra curse and CI with some aura effect as well. This is a standard 12 passive minion jewel with the increased effect, the attack and cast speed. And then, as I said, you need a lot of dexterity to be able to equip all your gems and stuff, so I managed to get dex here as well and energy shield. So all of these give me a bunch of dexterity and energy shield on top of the bonuses for my minions. Again, we are putting in more cluster jewels wherever we can with big flat fizz rolls for our minions and energy shield for us. And then I have even one more of those down here. For your other tool jewel sockets, I am using Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh with Mastermind of Discord. That makes it so that when we apply those triple elemental exposures with our Purifying Flame, they do an extra minus 25 res, so super strong for lowering all those res, so your Tri-Ele minions will do lots of damage. And then, importantly, you need to make sure you get this increases and reductions to minion attack speed also affect you. To hit cap block, we need Glancing Blows. It's not shown there for the allocation, but I have it here on my relic. You know, the Glancing Blows invocation is really cheap, so you can buy that and throw it on whatever relic you had. I have this one that gives increased effective marks, so I get a little bit of extra flat fizz from Poacher's Mark. In future leagues, I guess you're just going to have to drop something to path down here to Glancing Blows, because I don't think these are coming back. GGG already said they're probably going away after this league, so don't count on those. Important masteries, I've got some minion area of effect. The built-in splash from Chains of Command is pretty small, so that AoE actually aids your clearing a lot. Increased effective offerings and penetrating Ele res. Don't need to worry about accuracy or anything, because like I said, I have a Resolute Technique Corrupt on the Voidforge my guy's using. Minions leech damages life we pick up there, and the +8 all max res helps them stay alive as much as they possibly can. And other than that, just picking up energy shield and stuff wherever you can. This little node right here is pretty nice. Defend with 120% of armor. This is, you know, equivalent to 20% more armor where you're on a max energy shield. Final thing, I guess, we'll look at the Pantheon here. I just have the fully upgraded Soul of the Brine King. Makes it so you can't get chain stunned and you can't be frozen, and chill is ineffective on you. And then, as with most CI builds, dots are kind of your primary concern. We get immunity to bleeding from bone armor whenever that pops on, and we're just popping that all the time, so I don't really have much trouble with bleeding, and we're not really hitting enemies much, so corrupting blood isn't much of an issue on this build. But ignites are pretty dangerous, so we are using the Soul of Abrath. That makes it so burning ground doesn't affect us either, which is especially nice if you are farming Exarch mobs and they're dropping burning ground all the time. So that's really all there is to say about the build. Again, check the POB if you want to go over all the details in your own time, and there are a lot more detailed written guides and stuff out there for Chains of Command, even with Voidforge in particular. It's not a new idea, but Voidforge is newly buffed, so I thought it was worth revisiting. Thank you all for watching. Enjoy the boss kill videos after this. Leave a comment, thumbs up, subscribe if you would, and I'll see you next time.